Hey, welcome to my garage Bible study. I gotta confess to you, whenever you lead a Bible study, you always want to give people something they haven't thought of before. That's kind of, at least that's my goal. You want to unlock this little phrase that people haven't seen, or give somebody a twist on a word. And unfortunately, sometimes that really leads us down a rabbit hole that isn't helpful. There's no hidden meaning to any of these Bible verses. There really isn't. Let's just look at what it obviously says and do what it obviously tells us to do. That's the case with what I'm going to look at today in the book of Galatians 5. If you've been around the Bible any length of time, you've heard this phrase, and you might be tuning out going, oh my gosh, I've heard this Bible study before. Well, no, you haven't. Or if you have heard it before, maybe you haven't heard the simplicity. Let me read it to you right now. It comes from the book of Galatians chapter 5, verse 19 and following. Here it is. Now the works of the flesh are evident: sexual immorality, impurity, sensuality, idolatry, sorcery, enmity, strife, jealousy, fits of anger, rivalries, dissensions, divisions, envy, drunkenness, orgies, and things like these. Things like these. This isn't even a whole list. This is just a partial list. The Bible teaches that we all have kind of two competing masters for us. There's the flesh, and then there's the spirit. The flesh isn't necessarily, what my flesh is. The flesh is my natural humanness. All of us are born of the flesh. We're born when our flesh comes out of our mother's womb. And so the flesh relates to our naturalness. Our naturalness is infected by the naturalness of this world that is naturally at enmity with God. And all of us have the flesh that's warring for us, and many of us are controlled by the flesh. What does it mean to control by the flesh? Well, they give us a whole list of all of these different things. When you're sexually immoral and always justifying your sexual actions instead of being sexually the way God has ordained sex to operate when a man and woman is in marriage, when you don't understand that, you don't want to understand that, you have no inkling of understanding that, you're of the flesh. When you're in the midst of strife, when you always justify your political opinions, when you always are judging somebody who is different than you, you're in constant strife mode. That is of the flesh. Jealousy. Whenever you see somebody who has a car that's nicer than yours, has a salary that's bigger than yours, has clothes that are more expensive than yours, and you judge that person, or you wish you had that, or you think that they must not know God to have those things, that's known as jealousy. That's the things of the flesh. Witchcraft and all this stuff. Whenever you see somebody who is always looking for some sense of spirituality out of the stars, a spirituality of nature, a spirituality that's this amalgamation of religiosity that's all around the world, and making your own spirituality and religiosity, that's part of the flesh. God isn't nebulous. He's actually knowable. He doesn't deposit a little piece of himself everywhere, though he is everywhere because God is omnipresent. But when we fail to see, no, there is a God, he is the great I am, we're following into worldliness, into the flesh. And I don't want to go into all these different things. That's enough of the negative stuff. But let's look at the good stuff. Let's look at the good stuff. And then it says this: but the fruit of the Spirit, but meaning it's different than the fruit of the flesh, the natural things of the flesh. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. God does never speak against these things because this is the fruit of the Spirit. I've got a shop in here that I do a good bit of woodworking in, and I've made tables and all that kind of stuff. And it's amazing how I'll have some old wood and I'll be planing it down or running it through my saw, and I'll really not be sure whether it's white oak or red oak. I won't know if it's black walnut or pine. Actually, I could probably tell the difference between black walnut and pine. They're pretty obvious, but black walnut and poplar or poplar and pine. It's hard to look at the grain of wood. If I gave you a piece of wood, very, very, very few of us would know what kind of tree that came from. If I took a leaf out of any number of trees and showed you that leaf, you still would probably not know what kind of tree that came from. But if I gave you a black walnut, you'd go, that's a black walnut tree. If I gave you an acorn, you go, that's an oak tree. If I gave you an apple, you go, that's an apple tree. You know what something is made of when you see the fruit. It's very, very, very clear. The way you know that you're walking with Christ, the way you know that the Holy Spirit is active and in you is not your beliefs, it's not your convictions, it's not whether or not you were baptized, it's not whether or not you even tune in to the Garage Bible Study, though I'm sure so many of us who are in my Garage Bible Study, you're definitely the real spiritual ones. It's not those things. It's not those things. It is like, is my life loving? Do I have a joy that surpasses all understanding? And am I peaceful when I don't like what's happening in our country? Don't you know that Jesus overturned the tables? People who aren't peaceful and don't have the fruit of the Spirit know all the anger parts in the Bible. They're like, because they're always looking for something to justify their anger. Are you peaceful? Are you joyful? Do you have gentleness? Whether gentleness with your person you're dating or with your kids, gentleness with somebody who votes different than you. Are you gentle? Self-control. Are you able to make and fulfill commitments to yourself? Not just God, but to yourself. Can you see in your history things that you said you weren't going to do that you've been able to not do? Things you said you were going to do that you're not doing? Faithfulness. Do you see that you're able to follow through on your convictions again and again and again? Now, again, I'm saying for you because it's so crazy how we'll read the Bible and apply it to other people. And I don't want you to go, so all those people who aren't patient, who aren't long-suffering, who aren't all those, this is not about all of you. This book is written for you. This book is not written for you to whack other people with and judge other people with. That's one of the things that's really critical. If you ever do a study on something like the Enneagram, or you do a study on the other side of Enneagram, on, say, the strongholds, the spiritual strongholds that sometimes grab us. Whenever someone goes through that, it's really important to go through a study that's about self-discovery and not a new tool to judge somebody else with. I want us, when you come in my garage, if you're going to judge anybody, judge yourself. And to look at what are our outages? Where are we on the gentleness? Where are we on the peace? Because it says in verse 24, and those who belong to Christ have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. When we belong to Christ, those things must die. What things? Well, the jealousy, the strife, the enmity, the impurity, the immorality, the rivalries, the divisions, those things must die. Now, when we come to know Christ, none of us instantaneously have a full orchard of sweet, succulent fruit of the Spirit. All of us have at least remnants of the flesh that are inside of us. It's an old illustration of if you're going to go and you're going to kill a chicken or kill a rooster, you chop off that head and that thing still runs around. It's dead. It's functionally dead because the head's chopped off, but it's still exhibiting life. The Bible teaches this is what happens when Jesus dies on the cross for us. The head of Satan is cut off. The source of all flesh is killed. The source of all flesh is crucified, but still there's this period where the flesh is still walking around and flapping around and squawking. And all I want us to do is say, hey, let's recognize the squawking that's happening in our lives. And let's say, no, I need that to die. I need to stop feeding that headless chicken in my life. I need to start eating and fertilizing the fruit of the Spirit in my life. You start doing that, and you're going to find a closeness with God that you couldn't have previously imagined, and you're going to find a joy in your life, and you're going to find a level of peace in your life. You're going to find new love in your life. You're going to find you have new self-control in your life. You're going to find that. Why? Because the fruit of the Spirit is present in you, because you want Jesus and what He offers, and that's what He offers. And never, never settle for the bitterness of the flesh's fruit. It's never worth it. I'm going to pray for you right now. God, I thank you for your clarity. We need fruit in this day and age right now. It doesn't matter what day and age we were living in. We would need it. And every believer from the beginning of time is needed to be reminded of these fruits. I choose to have your fruit instead of have my flesh. That's what I want. And I want more of us to have that as well. And I pray these things in your name, Jesus. Amen.